How's it going, guys, and welcome back to Retrospect, your go-to retro gaming podcast. You're listening to episode 56.
That's EastEnders, man. That is the EastEnders theme tune. It's like an old TV show here in the UK.
Is it really?
I don't know how you know that. Yeah.
Well, the theme song is what the Retrospect theme song sounds like.
Oh, that sounded like EastEnders. But UK folks will understand.
EastEnders? Okay. Well, we'll leave this little bit in it right at the start so people are like, what are they talking about? The EastEnders. Are you saying extenders?
EastEnders.
EastEnders.
It's like an old TV show that's like ran since the 80s. It's based in like middle of London. It's weird. My mum used to watch it.
Oh, okay. All right. It's an older show. It's an older show. I got you. The EastEnders. Okay. Well, today, guys, we're not talking about the EastEnders. We are talking all about the Game Boy. So strap in and get ready. This is going to be a good one. Oh, yeah, there you go. We already got one on the screen. If you're watching this, Brandon's got all the Game Boys that we're going to be showing off. And as always, we have the artiste of the arcade with me on the mics, Brandon Saltalamacchia. What's up, man?
What's up? Funny you say that. I visited a little pop-up arcade shop in Bristol on the weekend.
I know cool. It, man. I've been seeing you go into all these places, and I'm very jealous. I was like, we need more of this. In Chattanooga, we have literally nothing. We have a pinball place, and that's it.
I do dig a good pinball machine.
Yeah, but it's a pinball museum. So
yes, this is what I went to.
So the way that it works is like there's a million pinball machines all along the walls. You pay a one-time flat rate to get in, and then you just walk around and play machines. And you're like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool pinball machine. And then if you want to, they actually serve beer now. So I haven't been since they started serving alcohol, but that sounds a little more fun. So
interesting.
It's not just a museum.
Because this follows up from our recent podcast episode where I went to the barcade.
I know it.
Now
man.
a pin bar
arcade. That's hard to say.
This one I went to was more of a museum. They had like all retro consoles in like behind a screen, but it was. I hope they're not watching because they were very happy that we shared it, and it just wasn't. It was £7.50 per person. So we ended up paying £15 for me and Kate to go in. And it was just a little, what's the word? Tacky. Where I envision, like, I've had dreams of creating like a coffee shop mixed retro gaming museum. And I just want it to be like super sleek, super modern, minimal. We have nice lights. And that's what I want. And if nobody's going to build it in the next 10 years, I might just come along and sap it up.
Well, here's the thing, Brandon. Pinball machines in themselves already are like kind of tacky, like they're just big, obtrusive, they light up and they make all kinds of crazy noises. So like as soon as you have one of those, like you could have one in your barcade or your coffee shop and it probably would be like
tacky.
Okay. But then as soon as you have like multiple going on, there's just noise everywhere and it's chaos and there's lights everywhere. And you're like, I'm just going to embrace this. So maybe that's what they did. But if you figure out a way to make pinball and arcade cabinets less tacky and like make them like streamlined and beautiful, I think you could do it, man.
Just picture like a retro themed coffee shop, but designed by analog. That's what I envision. Like you don't necessarily have to be able to play on lots of things, but be able to visually see, visually learn, like every handheld possible from Nintendo on the wall with like a little spotlight on it. That's kind of what I'm going for. Maybe I should start a Kickstarter on that. Ooh.
That sounds nice. A little local, arcade for the distinguished folks that appreciate the art of the game.
Do you know what? Like to just go in, have a coffee, read some high quality gaming books, preferably, a handheld history, not saying anything.
Sponsored.
And learn about retro consoles. I don't know. There's something about that.
Have you heard of a coffee shop or a company called Revelator before?
Revelator.
Mm-hmm. No. Look this up. Revelator. Every single one of these coffee shops, I feel like, has the same look. It's this like sleek white interior, very minimalist almost in all of their coffee shops.
Yeah, this.
Okay.
I'm glad you picked up on kind of what I was going for. Yeah, this, like, they got the granite tops, they got the nice LEDs, simple, sleek, and nobody can break shit. I went into that museum, I dropped 3 controllers, dude, and I felt really bad.
You dropped 3 controllers, Brandon.
Yeah, it might be because I'm going blind.
You are the retro Dodo, dog. You can't be going into places doing that.
I know. It was a Sega Saturn controller as well. I was like, oh, shit.
Hey, has this happened yet? Have you like been somewhere in public and people have recognized you? You're like, oh, you're the retro Dodo guy.
Very rarely.
Okay.
Very rarely. But when we were looking at this house, right? Because it was our first house me and my partner ever purchased. We were walking around like the local area, and a guy runs up to me with his kids and goes, I think, are you the retro guy? And I thought the kids were going to come up to me, but it was the dad that was that was like years ago, really.
That is awesome. That is so cool. Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, it's good that once your popularity builds even more, like, and you start dropping controllers in arcades, they're like, "What's this guy? This is the retro Dodo guy. Like, what's he doing over here dropping controllers?
Does he not know how to hold a Sega Saturn controller? Idiot!
I had never had a Super Nintendo.
Yeah,
don't blame me. All right, well, that's awesome. Real quick, housekeeping. We're gonna jump into this. So we are sponsored by A Handheld History, 88 to 95. One of the most beautiful follow-ups to a coffee table book you've ever seen, all about gaming from 88 to 95. I have my copy. Brandon, I'm sure you have your own copy on the way. You guys should definitely pick one up. I don't know how far along you guys are in the process. They're just waiting to be printed and sent out now, or what's the word?
Still in production, so still building it, putting the pages together, looking at all the materials, testing the glues and stuff. So that will be shipped on target, which is December. So hopefully they'll be out in people's hands for Crimbo.
You know what? I'll tell you something. I work in an office for my full-time job where we get print materials sent in all the time because we're making print stuff. And one thing I appreciate about the Handheld History books is, one, they're massive and they're super high quality, but also they don't smell bad. Because let me tell you something. We got like thousands and thousands of these like magazines sent to our office to like send out, and they smell terrible. Like our whole office just smelled so bad, dude. There was just ink, just ink was in the air, and I was like, I can't.
Ink and the glue, I think.
The glue really gets you. Oof. But I don't know. When I got my copy of Handheld History, I was like, this smells pretty good. This doesn't smell like ink. So if ink and glue turns you off, these ones are pretty good.
We had to pack those with our bare hands. So that could have been you could have smelled a little bit of me there. You never know. I was packing hundreds, man. My God, my back was screwed.
You should like write those packed by Brandon.
Just rub it on my chest. Like, oh, see ya. Pack that one.
Essence of Brandon.
Limited edition.
Was no one else helping you pack those?
Yeah, it was like a train. We had rolls. Someone put in the bookmarks. Someone put in the leaflets. I would
assembly line.
Roll.
Smart thinking. Hey, Henry Ford invented that. That's an American right there for you. The assembly line. All right.
Invented the 9-5 as well, didn't he?
I don't know what that is. The 9 to 5, the job.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did, I think. That bastard. Okay, never mind. I take it back. That guy sucks. Just kidding. He also invented cars, which are pretty cool, I guess. All right. So another quick shout out. Write into the show if you guys want to. You can write into Retrospect at retrododo.com. Just like, I think this guy's name is Mark. I need to make sure I get this right. It was Mark, right?
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers, Mark, at the very end. Okay. So this is pretty cool. He says, greetings from an Aussie expat in the Great White North, Canada. I just wanted to shoot you guys an email and say great work with the podcast. It's a staple of my drive time listening. I always keep it for the drive home on Friday afternoon because it's always put a great cap on my week. Very kind. Thank you, first of all, for that, Mark. He says, we've gotten back into handhelds and retro gaming over the last year and a half. Grew up in the 90s within a Nintendo household, and the Dodo has been a staple of my news and articles. The Big Tasty lad has put together a great crew churning out some great content. I've always been a console gamer, not so much into the handhelds, but I've gotten back into it with the Switch of a couple years ago, and then treaded the path from Retroid to Odin, then to Steam Deck. As a husband and a father, I find the handhelds are a great way to get your gaming in while still being present and semi-social with the family, especially for the more casual games. Wanted to reach out not only to praise the podcast, but also give a topic suggestion. I think it'd be fun to do an episode on console controllers, maybe an overview on how they've evolved and which is your personal favorite. Take it easy, guys. Thanks for taking the time to read this and keep up the good work. Cheers, Mark.
He just wants to watch me drop more controllers, doesn't he? He's not know how to handle them. First up is the 6. Whoa! Well, there it goes.
Oh, this is a good controller, by the way I dropped it.
Yeah, slippery, this one.
Well, Mark, dude, thank you so much. That is a very, very cool email. So glad that you get to listen on the ride home. I love that you've made the transition from, traditional handhelds all the way to the Steam Deck and everything in between there. So definitely the Dodo is the place to find all that content. I feel like every week there's a handheld that Retro Dodo is covering and talking about. So you definitely will know what's coming down the pipeline there. And then, what do you think about an episode on the controllers? I think it'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, there's some weird and wacky ones, man. Like even like accessories. Like Rob just reviewed a PS1 racing controller where you spin like a wheel. You hold it with one hand and you spin the wheel. Like there's so many crazy ones.
It's like a little driving controller. I love that though. The problem is, I don't have a ton of controllers. I only have like probably 3 or 4 in my house right now. And so like we'd have to like define the categories. Like, okay, so we're going to be talking about like the worst controllers of all time. And then like maybe the best controllers of all time, or we just do a wide swath of like, here's all the Nintendo controllers. Like, I don't know. We'll have to think about this. Maybe Mark will write back into us.
Weirdest, best, and wackiest. You pick a couple from each. N64 is definitely like in all 3 of those.
The best. You're right. Yeah. It at least fits one of the categories. Well, that was a fun read, Mark. Thank you so much again for writing in. And if you are wanting to have your topics or questions read off on the show, do just what Mark did, okay? Retrospect at retrododo.com. Let's move into the topic of the show, the Game Boy. So, I don't know. I think I originally had this idea when we had Jason on because his handle was Game Boy Zero. But then we decided we wanted to actually talk to Jason more, and there's a lot to talk about regarding the Game Boy, and I don't think we would have had enough time to talk to Jason and do all of this. So at the very top, what I've done is kind of just given everyone a brief history. We have how it came to be, and then the like different iterations of the Game Boy as they came out over the years. And then we have some really good, hard-hitting questions at the very end. So let's run through this list. How do you want to do this, Brandon? Do you want to trade off on each of the iterations? So you start with the Game Boy, and then I'll read the next one?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Just throwing you in there?
Yeah. So one thing I like, I'll just jump straight in with the Game Boy, the OG.
Well, hold on. I forgot about this. Let's talk about the Gunpei Yokoi first. How it came to be.
I was going to jump into that.
Okay, perfect.
One of his first products and how he got noticed by Nintendo was one called the Ultra Hand, which may ring some bells because I think that's in the new Legend of the Zelda game. Like it's a power or something you use to get places and do things. And this Ultra Hand was basically like a cheap plastic toy with 2 handles that you just pull, and this hand would go whoop, and just grab stuff
just
off people's desks. So I think one of Nintendo's XX Soul Gunpei Yokoi's masterpiece. It was like, hey, you want to jump onto like electronics? And then this was fast forward probably a couple of years. He invented the D-pad.
Oh, man.
And I think that integrated into the Game & Watch.
Yep.
Which then integrated into, every console known to man, pretty much.
Still exists today. Yep.
Crazy. But his biggest success was that he designed and helped with the production of the original Game Boy, which launched in 1989.
That's wild. I also liked this fact. Did you see that they referred to him as the god of gaming? Like
really?
some people refer to Gunpei Yokoi as the god of gaming.
Yeah, I would
what a title.
Agree. Like the amount that he's changed the industry is phenomenal.
He's been through it all, man. He started it, and the D-pad wouldn't really have, like, gaming would not have existed if we did not have the D-pad. Look at that beautiful thing. Look at that. If you're watching on YouTube, Brandon's got the Game Boy right in front of us.
The latest handheld I got in, literally yesterday, what does it have on it? Oh, D-pad. Oh, a little bit of Gunpei Yokoi.
A little D-pad right there. Essence of Gunpei.
Mm,
Or Gun. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I should know how to pronounce his name. But yeah, I also like this little tidbit. He got the idea when he saw a bored businessman playing the calculator. So like he just saw, I guess, somebody on the train maybe, or just
someone
somewhere.
writing boobies into the calculator. Do you know how to do that? It's like 8008135 boobies. Guys, look over here.
I love that idea, but I don't know if in Japan that was the exact correlation.
True.
He was writing in English. Well, I guess no, actually, Japanese numbers.
Because they do have numbers. Yeah,
I don't know. Actually, I don't know what the Japanese calculator looks like, but
it's numbers, isn't it? I don't think any country's got a different. Sure, I might be wrong here.
I
This
don't
is where
know now.
One of us are about to be an absolute idiot.
Well, I don't know. I just typed in Japanese numbers, and it looks like a bunch of kanji, so I don't know.
No way do different countries have different. I thought every country in the world uses the numerical system that we use.
I think they might. And it could just be like, this is how they're spelling it. So like, that's how it's spelled.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know, dude. Someone needs to make us not sound really dumb on here. I'm pretty sure they just use regular numerals. You're right. So they could spell boobies if they wanted to on their calculators.
They wouldn't know what it means though, right? It would just, what is that?
Hello and boobies. Those are the three. Oh, wow. Well, that's how the Game Boy came to be.
From boobies.
Yes. All right. So let's start out with the OG Game Boy. So Brandon, walk us through the features of the OG Game Boy in 1989.
It's an 8-bit gaming system, weighs the same as a small vehicle, has a reflective LCD screen with a greenish tint. It runs on 4 big boy AA batteries. But one of the biggest features it has removable cartridge, which only a couple of consoles did back then. I think there was something like the Intellivision that did it first, but
Atari
Nintendo did it better. And so you can buy a bunch of games because the Game & Watch only had like 1 or 2 games on one console. It was usually the game and then the clock. So they wanted something where they could just make you spend more of your money. And that was cartridges.
Buy more games, buy more batteries. You're welcome. But yeah, I mean, like, so I never had an original Game Boy. I had a few friends that had an original Game Boy, but it was always like just very like iconic, very stylish. That green screen, like whenever you saw it, you're like, yeah, this is a Game Boy. I know exactly what this is. You know, moms and kids everywhere just playing Tetris, going absolutely nuts. Sorry, I just burped on the microphone.
Okay, I was trying to do some ASMR, and I'm sure they picked up something else.
So gross. Forgive me.
I need to do my ASMR. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, no, please, please keep the ASMR going for the Game Boys. Here comes the Game Boy sliding out the cartridge.
Here's the on button.
Oh wow!
Wait for it. Give it a second. Oh! Yeah. And here's the cartridge. Dang! Oh, here's the battery pack. I should play this as an instrument, like.
We've talked about this, but you should go in if you get tired of doing retro Dodo stuff. You should just go into the sound production and just start messing around with gear.
Just use consoles as my noises.
Everything you're hearing in this game and this movie is made by console noises. Me slapping things around.
Yeah, dropping Sega Saturn controllers. My bad.
Ooh, dang. All right. Well, so then moving on. So in 1996, so there was a 7-year gap before the Game Boy and the next iteration came out.
That's crazy. Imagine if that happened now.
Yeah,
like 7 years for a tiny little iteration.
Yeah, I mean, in the Game Boy Pocket, speaking of tiny, was a smaller, more compact version of the original Game Boy. It had improved screen contrast and it required 2 AAA batteries, further enhancing portability. So it was a much smaller system, but pretty much the exact same thing. And it just let you take it on the go, all that much more, but still played the same Game Boy games. And, this came out in 96. And then in 2 years later, you had, Brandon, take it away.
The Game Boy Light, which was a Japanese exclusive, but had a, some would say high quality backlit screen, but in reality, it just kind of felt like it just glowed in the dark. It had infrared communication and was similar size to the Game Boy Pocket and color, but it was. People wanted a backlit screen, and the Game Boy Light is famous for being the first backlit Game Boy because I think, which we'll get onto in a minute, the color didn't have.
Yeah, so it's weird. Like they tried the backlight, and they're like, okay, cool, this is convenient for us, I guess, but I don't know why they didn't bring it over to the color. I don't know what the thought process was, but I want one of these. Like I saw some pictures. Have you seen one in person?
Not in person. No, they're quite rare.
They are rare, yeah. And I'm just confused as to like what the thought process was. I guess they knew that the Game Boy Light would be more popular in Japan, and they're just like, yeah, we're not going to the color. That's for everybody else. So I don't know, but yeah. After that, we had the Game Boy Color, and that thing was magnificent. Brandon, do you have one in your hand right now?
I do. And the Game Boy Color, so this is a modded one. I can only apologize. This is an old modded Game Boy Color, but you can kind of get a sense as the scale, the size.
It's beautiful.
My favorite Game Boy of all time, the Game Boy Color. So many memories with this. It's got a little junk in the trunk as well, so it's a bit more comfortable in your hands.
Yeah.
Only takes 2 AA batteries, so it doesn't weigh the same size as a car. The screen is a bit bigger. Is the screen bigger? That is a question I should know. I actually think it might be the same.
They might be comparable. I don't know if they're that noticeably different. Actually, the screen is a little bit bigger. Yeah, it is.
Might be a little bit bigger, or
definitely less of a bezel for sure.
Yeah, no bezel. What else did they add to it? I should know this.
I mean, that's really about it, though. I mean, it really was just a little more powerful. It could play color games. It had, it had color graphics, and like there was the different cartridges. So you had the traditional ones that were on the Game Boy, and then if you wanted to play those Game Boy games on the Game Boy Color, you had like a few color options that you could cycle between, and that was kind of it.
Kind of get a sense of scale. Like it's so much smaller than the OG Game Boy.
But I love the description of junk in the trunk, because that is very much true. It had that little rounded back, and it just made it like a little more comfortable to hold. Like even today, with my giant hands, like when I hold the Game Boy Color, I'm like, this actually is still pretty comfortable. Like playing on this feels pretty nice.
Yeah, agreed. What was your first ever Game Boy?
Game Boy Color, bro.
Yes.
It was the atomic purple one, or the one that wasn't see-through, whatever that one was called.
Got you. Yeah, it was like a bluey purple. That was mine as well, dude. Crazy.
Yeah. Look at us. Purple Game Boy.
The cool thing with the Game Boy Color is that it introduced the graphics, the colored graphics. It was compatible with both the original Game Boy cartridges and the new color cartridges. It had a bit more power, but again, no backlight.
Yeah. I wonder, like, they literally had the light and the color come out in the same year, and they're like, no. We're gonna have the Americans and everyone else use the worm light instead. They're gonna slap that little accessory on top so they can sit in their bus and play games by themselves.
I think it's got to be something to do with battery life, right? Maybe it drained the battery life by a considerable amount, and they didn't want to get competitive with competition or get
true
outplayed.
I do think that probably was a consideration for them. Like battery life was a thing. Like,
if you look at the Game Gear, that was backlit, but that took like 6 AA batteries.
Well, the Game Gear wasn't just backlit. That thing was like, that was a full LCD, like that was a full screen in that bad boy. Look at all these freaking modded games you have, dude.
Oh man, yeah.
That thing is beautiful though.
I have no originals. I'm like, I feel like I'm a little bit of a collector, but I'm not. I just like cool shit, I guess.
And so the Game Boy noise when you turn on the Game Boy Color is the exact same as all the other ones, right?
Well, let's find out. Oh no, I don't think this one's got a very good, because it's modded. I likely screwed up the audio, but here it goes.
What have you done?
Wait a second. Do I have to have a game in it? I think I have to have a game in it.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, bro.
God dang!
It's toast. It's toast, dude.
Oh, I've got something. I've got some noise. All right, here we go again.
It's because it's modded. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Wow. So yeah, same kind of noise. But then we move into the big daddies. So so Brandon, talk to us about the Game Boy Advance. Why don't you? 2001. This guy came out.
The Game Boy Advance took a big turn in terms of design. You can see it's more of like a horizontal handheld. They took, ergonomics into consideration. It had a slightly wider screen, enhanced graphics, was backwards compatible, but they came up with new games and a smaller cartridge I think the Game Boy Advance is probably the most popular and the best in terms of gaming experience across the Game Boy line.
We went from like what? I don't think we even had 16-bit on the Game Boy. I think it was like literally a jump of 8-bit to 32-bit.
Yeah, I think
right?
So.
Does that make sense? I think so.
I'm sure.
I know Game Boy Advance was 32-bit. I'm trying to think what was on the Game Boy, but those games did not look as good. I mean, but the Game Boy Advance, when that thing came out, it was beautiful. But the only downside is you still had to have a freaking worm light. You still had to have some way to see that screen, man. It still wasn't backlit because they're like, no, we're not doing that. Oh yeah,
slightly different there. Jesus.
But majestic nonetheless. I mean, that noise, like it signaled an increase or a change in technology. When that thing came on, you knew you were playing the Game Boy Advance, and it was magnificent. So, oof, I missed that. I missed that guy. And then we had the Game Boy Advance SP in 2003. Incredible. So we had the clamshell design, completely redesigned from the ground up. More, I would say, I guess, in the form factor of the original Game Boy, with it when it's fully extended. And Brandon's displaying it beautifully on the YouTube channel right now. But yeah, you had a full front-lit screen, which was incredible. You had rechargeable lithium-ion batteries that eliminated the need to have your Game Boy weigh as much as a car. And you could turn the screen brightness on and off. Like you could turn the backlight on and off.
It was the magic of going to school and being like, just doing this, just flicking up the screen. Like,
oh,
hear that?
I mean, yeah, you could just flex on people. Literally, you're flexing that screen, about to break it. Be careful,
and
man.
Just look at it compared to like when it's folded, like size comparison to the Game Boy Advance. Like it's far more portable now.
Oh yeah,
just beautiful.
I loved the Game Boy Advance SP. The only downside with that, can that thing fit Game Boy games in the bottom of it? The Game Boy Advance SP.
Yes.
Yeah, and that,
but it doesn't look natural.
No, it doesn't look great.
Jesus.
So when you're holding that bad boy, trying to play original copy, your hands are kind of resting on the cartridge at that point. So not the best.
Put wheels on that thing, it could be a skateboard.
You have so many metaphors, so many similes for these. Like it weighs as much as a car. It is a skateboard.
I've done this job for far too long, man. Like writing all these articles.
I have no other ways to describe these anymore. Yeah, please do not stand on your Game Boy Advance SPs as a skateboard. It will break. And then closing out the list, last and maybe least, but in size at least, the Game Boy Micro. So let's talk about this real quick, Brandon. Do you have one? You said you have one somewhere in your house.
I've got one. It is boxed. It's just a little fidgety. It's just too. I think they made a mistake here. If they finished the Game Boy line with the SP, you would have been like, they went out with a bang, and then they bring out this little tech deck Game Boy Micro thing. Like, what have you done? What have you done? I think
it's so small.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But it does have like removable face plates. It's far more compact. It's got like a higher build quality. In the backlit screen is stunning. Like it is incredibly bright. You don't need to do any modding to it. But it was expensive when it launched. It wasn't very popular. And it was just too small. Like you'd sit on it and lose it. It would be somewhere in your body, and you wouldn't have a clue where it went. And it's I don't. It was just too small. I think it was just too small.
It's too small. It's too small. I remember in GameStop here in the UK or in the US, we might have talked about this, but they had them attached to their lanyards. They had them like dangling from their chest,
Yeah.
It was kind of
like
cool.
a necklace.
Yes, like a necklace.
What the hell?
And they were like, "Oh, what's up, guys? Welcome to GameStop." And they'd be like sitting there playing their Game Boy
Swinging
Micros.
it on their neck like, "What up, guys?"
And then they drop it to help you with your Game Boy sale or whatever. What are you buying today, guys? I'm trying to sell my entire life savings so I can buy a Game Boy.
Oh, you got the Game Boy Mass SP. Disgusting. Why don't you buy this little thing?
Buy the Micro. It's so sick, dude. Actually, no, I think I remember one of the guys telling me that the battery life was trash. He was like, don't. He's like, you don't. He's like, don't do this. He's like, it's cool, but he's like, it's not that cool.
Yeah.
But now that they're like super limited, I kind of want one. So
yeah, they're more of a collector's thing now. And, I don't think they played Game Boy Color games. So they weren't backwards compatible either.
No, I don't think so. So a little bit of a loss there. But that's how it ended. That's the entire line of Game Boy hardware. So pretty good stuff across the board. And I would say my favorite for sure would have to have been the SP. But my heart is still with the Game Boy Color because that was my first one. So
I'm exactly the same.
Yeah. So good. So good. So here's our closing questions now that we've talked about the Game Boy a little bit. So this first one's kind of a lot to think about. How did the Game Boy influence portable gaming and shape the future of handheld consoles?
Wow, what a question. That could be an episode in itself. And I'd love to do a hell of a lot of research, but I only found out about the topic of today about 15 minutes ago. But I know enough, with the whole Gunpei Yokoi stuff. And even though the Game Boy wasn't the first portable console, nor was it the first console to have replaceable cartridges, Nintendo did what everyone should have. And they made it a flawless machine that was semi-affordable. It was addictive. It was marketed to both kids and adults, and they marketed it so well that you couldn't miss it. It was everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, when I think about the Game Boy, one thing that Nintendo did that's really cool is for the longest time, they had like the dedicated arms of the company. So they had their handheld business, and then they had their home console business. And then, of course, they had like the other stuff that they were doing. But that at one point, they basically decided we're going to fully dedicate ourselves to both developing hardware for these games, and we're going to make games for this hardware, and vice versa for their home consoles. But that's one thing Nintendo's been great about, is making sure that the hardware that they develop is maximized. Like as much as they can do to make games excellent on those consoles, they're going to do it. They're going to get third parties on to help out with filling the gaps in between their games that they release. But then all the Nintendo games like absolutely shined on these consoles and looked so good, performed so well, and like sold millions and millions of copies. So I think for the Game Boy in general, just Tetris alone, that 1-2 punch package combo of Tetris, like I'm thinking back to the movie, one of our first few episodes, like the Game Boy was just everywhere. They somehow convinced like everyone that they needed to get this thing. It wasn't just like a kid's gaming toy. It was like there were business people, moms, like everyone everywhere, but they were just driving to work, sitting on the trains, wherever, playing Game Boy, just playing Tetris. And
they timed it perfectly, because in the 80s, arcades were huge. Kids wanted to go out and play games. They had the classic retro consoles, but you had to go to your friends or they had to come to you. But the magic with the Game Boy launch is that it was affordable, and they got it into almost so many households, and that's what began the history of home entertainment portable consoles, in my opinion. Affordable ones.
Affordable. That's the biggest thing for me, is making it affordable. I mean, that's why the Game Boy was my first system, really, my first console, because it was pseudo affordable. My grandma was like, I'm going to buy you one of these. And I was like, you're the best grandma in the world.
What a lovely lady.
Thank you so much. So the Game Boy had a pretty long lifespan too. Looking back at this history, it ran from 89 to 2005, but also just thinking of that original run from 89 to 96 for the original Game Boy. Like, what do you think? Like, what factors contributed to actually lasting that long in the market?
That's a good question. I think one, competition took its time to catch up. Probably a good couple of years before anything decent came along, like Atari and stuff. But also the games in the launches, the releases. Nintendo's very good at creating characters that you build a relationship with. So bringing them from console to your portable machine was great. I also think Pokemon was a big player in making it a
dude,
superb handheld, and the amount of hours you put into to Pokemon, it's a good 20 plus hours to get to the end. And I think when high quality games like that come out, it makes you look forward to more and more and more. And I don't know if Nintendo did it, but I can imagine they teased upcoming games as well. Like, oh, wait for Christmas. Just wait 4-5 months. Keep playing it, and a new game's coming out. So I think they just marketed it really well with their games, and the amount of accessories for this machine as well. I think I've got one that I need to show you that I keep bringing up in the podcast.
Bring it out, bro. Bring it out. Yeah.
These kinds of things. Like, what is this?
We've seen this absolute beast.
I love this thing. Like, I'm putting it into like its little coffin here. Oh, Jesus.
Are you gonna bring this thing into every single episode of our podcast?
Yes. You put wheels on this thing, it's a skateboard.
Everything is a skateboard if you put wheels on it.
Oh, God.
So for me, like, going back to what you said about Pokemon, like, it goes back to the games. People want to play these games, and then once they added that multiplayer component, so like when you saw that you could trade Pokemon with your friends, like, that made everyone else want to play Pokemon. So I think the factor that it was so wide-reaching actually helped with this longevity too, because if something's like kind of serving a niche market, it only can go so far until it kind of dwindles out because you're serving such a small audience. But when everyone's on board, everyone wants it, and you have that connectivity to where like you're incentivized almost to have one, like, it just makes that thing run into the stratosphere. And 100%. Then you have games like Pokemon where like they keep coming out like every year, and there's just thousands and thousands of things to do and trade and like battle, and you added the online functionalities later with like the DS and stuff. Like, it just,
you almost felt like you're missing out when your friend would want to trade a Pokemon with you, and you'd be like, "What? You've only got a War Turtle? I've got a level 50 Blastoise. What have you been doing, boy? You've been playing with your dolls again? I've been buffing up my Blastoise.
I don't want that Weedle. Get that out of my face."
Yeah, take your Kakuna and shove it.
I was never that way. But one other thing I just thought of also is the internet was not a thing yet. Like, I mean, it was a thing, but none of these had internet connectivity, which actually, in my mind right now, sounds lovely. Just the idea of like, you don't know what your friend has, and you have to physically meet them to say, "Hey, can we trade Pokemon real quick? I need to meet you. I gotta get that War Turtle from you because I'm trying to trade up and get a Haunter and do some stuff." Like, you had to physically meet people to like play these games together, and I miss that. Going back to our episode about in-person gaming, man, bring it back.
Golden age, that was, man. Golden age.
Bring it back. So we kind of talked about that. I'm going to skip this question. Anyone that would want to collect Game Boys, do you have any advice? And then one that's wanting to like build a collection and or just start looking at Game Boy stuff. Any advice for them?
Depends. If, like I always say, if you want to collect, go with what gives you the most nostalgic emotion. If you remember playing with the Game Boy Color, get a Game Boy Color. So I think it comes down to personal preference. But if you want to collect for profit and you want to keep hold of like invaluable, super rare Game Boys, I hate to say it, but you need to go boxed. And if you can, like, try and get it in minty condition. Like, those are the ones that collectors are going to go for. Those are the ones that we're going to see be taken by museums in 50 years' times. So, unfortunately, you can get tons of Game Boys that are just loose, scratched up for like $50. But if you want something valuable that, what's the word where it compounds interest
Mm-hmm.
over time, boxed and minty condition.
Boxed and minty. I think also special edition consoles. So there were a
Yes.
lot of like unique, like Pokemon specific Game Boys. There were like ones that were like the Game Boy Light that was only released in Japan. So if you can find ones that were attached to a specific release or something like that, those are also worth a
We
lot of
have an
money.
article on top 5 rare Game Boys for collectors.
Check it out.
I've actually got a pretty valuable Game Boy Advance SP one that was launched exclusively in Nintendo World Japan, or the store. There's like crazy valuable DMGs. There's a golden advanced Game Boy, which is actually made of carat gold. That was a competition while they were selling or launching
Ridiculous.
Zelda the Minish Cap. So I think there's only one of those, and there's some other ones as well, like Nintendo Pokemon Limited Edition ones that were launched in stores and stuff. So there's a whole new world if you're interested in collecting Game Boys.
World.
I would love to get into it, but oh man,
That's some
oh
cash.
yeah.
Lighting that money on fire.
I know Elliot Cole from Retro Future, who we need to get on the podcast.
Yeah, let's get him on the podcast.
Has some valuable ones.
We'll talk to him about his most valuable Game Boys and all the crazy ones he got in Japan. All right, then the last two questions, Brandon. Personal favorite Game Boy memory or game?
I think you mentioned it. Trading Cable and the Game Boy Color in Pokemon Blue. Man, sat outside my mum's house playing with Corey, that guy that was opposite the road that I used to go around just to play on his consoles. I remember trading with him. The Trading Cable was just magical because you almost had a sense of FOMO. You know, your friends are getting rare Pokemon. How have they got that? So you'd go home after you play with them, and you'd just stick on your Game Boy and collect the Pokemon that you can. For me, that's one of my most fondest gaming memories ever, is trading Pokemon on the Game Boy Color.
Yeah, it really was so magical. Like, I don't even know how we figured that out, but somebody like older and cooler than us told us, like my friend group, hey, you guys can trade Pokemon with this link cable. I'll let you borrow it so you can trade Pokemon. And I remember he like gave us that, and I was like, my mind was blown. I was like,
when the first kid on the block got a Mew, because I think you have to like cheat to get Mew, don't you? Like, how the hell did you get that? I'll give you 6 lollipops for that Mew.
You know, and let's talk about this. Mew wasn't even that cool. Like, Mew was so legendary because of the movie, but like when you actually use him as a Pokemon, like he wasn't that good. He wasn't even that good of a Pokemon. Mewtwo was way cooler. That's all I'm saying. My favorite memory was playing Pokemon on the bus, playing Game Boy on the bus. I had the Wormlight, and just like
nice.
So many memories of just like sitting in the dark, because we'd be getting to school like before the sun would even come up. So you're sitting in the dark and just like on your Game Boy playing Pokemon or whatever, and just a little Wormlight above you. Like, so many good memories.
Are kids allowed to take consoles to school now? Are kids allowed to be on the bus with their Switch?
I'm sure they're allowed to, but they probably will not be allowed to have them in class.
Right.
Another downside, in college, I actually brought my Game Boy to class. I had my Game Boy, and I would whip it out sometimes, and like people behind me would see me playing and start giggling. They're like, "This guy's playing Game Boy in class."
Nerd.
No, they were like, "That's awesome, dude. Where'd you get that? Oh, it's so sick."
Yeah.
And then last question: will the Game Boy ever come back?
Oh, I would like to hope so. In any form factor, I'm up for anything. I would like to see what like a little Game Boy Mini. Just give me a Game Boy Mini preloaded with games.
Yep.
That'll do me. That'll do me. That's all I want.
Like, there was rumors of this. I remember when the SNES Classic and the NES Classic came out. You know, they're like, oh, are they going to do Game Boy next? Like, just release like a little mini handheld Game Boy that has the same form factor of the DMG or the Game Boy Color, whatever, but it comes preloaded with games and it has like a backlit screen or something like that. Like, dude, those would fly off the shelves. Just sell that. Yeah. So many people would buy those. Many people would buy those. Because
I think the issue we got is that Nintendo wanna send customers to their Nintendo Switch Online. And that's why they're putting all the games on there. They'd rather take £5 off you a month for the rest of your life than charge you $80 for a Game Boy Mini, which sucks.
Dude, but here's the other thing. Integrate that. Like, it's great. Have you have NSO? Like, integrate it with a little handheld that it looks just like a Game Boy, but it attaches to NSO somehow. So, like, you know how like NSO, you have to connect to the network every now and then to like verify that you are an account owner or whatever. Like, just set it up that way. Like, sure, I have an NSO account, so now I can play all of my Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games that I have an NSO on this little device. Like, that would be so sick.
It would.
Be so sick.
That's all I want.
One day Nintendo will do the things that may lose them money in the long run, but make their fans happy. I don't know. Maybe not. Well, anyways, that's all the time we have this week, guys. Listeners, what are your favorite Game Boy memories? You can easily share by writing into retrospect at retrododo.com or comment on your preferred listening channel. Brandon, where can the good folks find you on the internet?
Doing some good work at Retro Dodo this week, trying to get in another freelance writer to help with Q4 content. So keep your eyes peeled over there. We've got a little story coming up about Pokemon Micro Machines. Can you remember Micro Machines? You probably can't see the tiny little cars. There's apparently some super rare Pokemon ones that never made it to the public that we're writing a little story on. So ears peeled for that. Ears, eyes. That's a article.
If you like to listen to articles, you know, you do what you want to do. Yeah, ears peeled, eyes eyes opened, eyes nose open as well. Sniff that article out. Yeah, I don't have anything to plug, but it's on the socials. It's BitBloggist, so check me out there. Until then, y'all, though, we'll catch you in the next episode.